Ever since I was a kid, I wanted to become an astronaut. Now that I'm an adult, I realize that goal might not exactly be as attainable as I originally hoped. But what I have come to realize is the next closest thing for me personally is scuba diving. Now, I am open water certified. What that means is if you wanted to go scuba diving right now, you could, but you would have to be with an instructor at all times. I'm allowed up to 30 meters deep to scuba dive on my own. It's actually the first level of certification, but there's a lot that goes into that. So I'm going to detail the equipment and the safety precautions that are typically used at base level scuba diving. So let's first talk about the gear. Your mask is extremely important. Underwater, it is very hard to see. It can be up to 5 feet of visibility at most at times, unless you're swimming in perfect crystal clear water. So it's very important to keep it clean at all times. It's also important to apply defogging cream or some sort of product to make sure it doesn't fog up while you're diving. You'll also notice that it has no nose holes. That can be very jarring for people to not be able to breathe through their nose, as you are breathing through your mouth at all times while underwater. But once you get used to it, it really isn't so bad. Next thing you need to know about are fins. Fins are self-explanatory. They allow us to move efficiently underwater so as not to waste air. It's very important that you take shallow breaths because you need to make that air last. Now, you'll also have 3 other things: a buoyancy control device, a tank, and a regulator. I don't own these things because they are very expensive, and most scuba diving places will rent them out. But let's briefly cover what they do. Your buoyancy control device will contain your weight belt, which will allow you to sink, as well as airbags in it that inflate, which allow you to float. You need to find the balance while underwater between these 2 things so that you may remain parallel to the ground at all times. This is important for efficiency of swimming. You don't want to be going up and down because A, it wastes air, and B, it wastes energy. You also need your tank, which is self-explanatory. It's a metal tank up to 3,000 psi of air, and a regulator, which will allow you to breathe that air without exploding your lungs. Now, let's talk about dive preparation. This is one of the most important steps. You need to pre-check your gear before every dive because any sort of gear failure can leave you severely injured or worse. So, always check your gear, always check your air levels, and always make sure to test your regulator before you go. Always have a buddy. You are never allowed to scuba dive alone. You always must go with a friend. When you're entering the water, you want to stand at the edge of the boat or platform and step off backwards. Let's talk about the initial descent. This is very important. You must slowly descend and equalize every 10 or so feet. This means grabbing your nose, breathing out through your nose, and increasing the pressure within your head. Navigating underwater is also very important. You will have a device attached to your regulator that will show you your depth, as well as have a compass on it. It will also, while you're ascending, show you how quickly you should ascend. Ascending is a much more dangerous process than descending. You could, if done wrong, shatter your eardrums or worse. Now, as you ascend, you can't really equalize other than allowing the air to equalize naturally and escape your ears. So your depth device will actually tell you whether or not you are ascending quickly enough or too fast. It's very important that you watch that while ascending. Now, the buddy system is extremely important. Your regulator will consist of 2 separate breathing pieces. It's important that you know how to clear that breathing piece and switch them out underwater. Because while diving, should your buddies or your air system fail, they will rely on your air to survive. You will have to link up and give them your secondary regulator in order to ascend. That is the main reason that you should never dive alone. Now, exiting the water is less important. Once you're at the surface, you mostly just fully inflate your BCD, your buoyancy control device, and you're floating there. But if you follow these basic steps, you should have a good time scuba diving. And I really hope you go check out the world underwater, because it might be one of the most beautiful things on this planet. Thank you.